Yeah, I'm Lisa and I'm a compulsive eater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the grey sheet. I write them down, I commit them to my sponsor on time, and I don't eat in between my meals no matter what. And I eat what I've committed no matter what. At this time, I can say abstinence is the most important thing in my life. And it's took me a while to get that, to understand that. Um, I can kind of what it was like before. I remember being a child and I would steal food. I remember the things we get at Easter. I would hunt them out. My mum and dad would hide them, and I would hunt them out and take the middle bits out of them, and then wrap them back up again and hide them back where they were. And then I would blame it on my sisters. Christmas stuff, I would do the same, take them out of the packets and eat them and wrap them back up again and hide them. Really deceitful and dishonest around food. Um, and a lot of our family occasions were centered around food. It was centered around a lot of food, a lot of family gatherings, and I'd always be waiting for one specific type of food to to come, and I would just eat it, and I'd go back and have more and more and more, and it was the sugary type of food, and yeah, I kind of been like that for years. I going into my teenage years, I was really self-conscious about my weight, thinking about my weight. And looking back now, I wasn't a big size, but I was really, really conscious. I didn't feel comfortable in myself. I started to drink alcohol, to use prescription diet pills off the doctor, and then finally going into drugs to try and control my weight. And I had children around this time as well. I had two sons, and I remember having my second son, and I think I'd only just come out of hospital that day, and I started exercising straight away because I had to get rid of this weight, and I slipped my disc, and it was in agony, and I had to wait for the doctor to come out, and I'd do all this stuff. I was like compulsively exercising. I couldn't go out the house until I'd exercised. I would buy as much crap in the house as I could, and I would buy the foods that we have at Christmas or Easter, and then these are for the children, and I would eat the lot, and then I'd have to go back to the shop, buy it all again, and then I would eat it all again. There was not enough of that food in the shop for me to satisfy my craving, and I didn't know then. It's what I'm learning now in Grey Sheet, that I always used to laugh and say, "Oh, I'm a sugar addict. I'm a brown thing addict," and but I didn't understand that as soon as I put one of them in me, that was me off, and I just set off this allergic reaction. And diet clubs, I tried so many diet clubs, and I would try them, and then I'd lose weight, and then I would put more weight on, and then I'd be that embarrassed to go back. I'd go to the same diet place but a different venue, and I'd always turn up there, and I would have put even more weight on, and I'd be quite disgusted, and I'd be thinking the scales were wrong, and well, how have I put all this weight on? I've been really good, I have, and all that denial, honestly. I would go to this is what I'm in another fellowship. I'm 11 years clean, and I go Narcotics Anonymous, and I was about 7 years clean and crazy. I was crazy, honestly. And I'd look around the room and I'd see all these people laughing and they were happy. And I would be thinking, why am I still miserable? And by this time, I had put so much weight on. I really have. I wish I'd known, because I would have brought some photos. But I'd put so much weight on, and I hated it. I hated myself. I'd grab myself and say, "Well, look at you, you fat blah, 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 and you're ugly," and all this negative, horrible self-talk, and it was horrible. And I remember it was my sponsor actually in NA, and she was doing grey sheet. Well, I didn't know she was doing it at the time. I just remember she was disappearing every time I seen her. She was getting smaller and smaller and shrinking, and she had some peace around her. Honestly, she had like this peace around her. And at this point, I was doing a juice thing where I only drank this jelly stuff. It was horrendous, and she said to me, "That sounds terrible." And then she started to describe what she'd done in grey sheet. And I looked at her and I said, "That's crazy, that is. I couldn't do that. Bloody 3 meals." And I was on this blooming stupid fad thing. And I just thought, I think a seed must have been planted, because it was a good few months down the line where I was on my knees, honestly. I remember I couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks. I felt like I was having a nervous breakdown. I'd put it down to the hormones, or it was this, or it was other people making me unhappy. And if he just if just everybody left me alone, I'd be all right. And it weren't the case. And I remember just getting on my knees and saying, "You know what? If there is a God, please help me. I need some help." And then she phoned me up, and I said, "You know what? I want to give it a go. I want to give it a go with what you're doing." So she kind of like told me what I needed to do, and it took a while to get used to it. Honestly, I kept thinking, "Oh God, weighing and measuring food. I can only eat this, or I can only eat that. And how am I never ever going to eat that stuff again? And how will I live without that stuff?" And yeah, it took a while to get into that. But what I heard was like, it's just for today. You don't think about in the future. It's a daily program. It's a daily reprieve. It's just for today. You just put the food on the scale for today. And I've done that. And I'd done that. I would make the odd outreach call. I got another a sponsor that started me off, and she gave me all these things that I should do. And I took what I wanted, and I left what I thought wasn't important. And the things that weren't important was picking the phone up. I thought you lot were crazy. I really did. I thought you lot were crazy, and I'm sane. And what you people were telling me weren't quite right. And so I didn't really engage with it. And I used it as a diet. And I did, but I didn't think I was at the time. And I remember people saying, I came for the vanity but stayed for the sanity, and I never got that. Never got that. And I was in grey sheet for about 2 years. I'd lost a hell of a load of weight. I started feeling good in myself, started looking good, and feeling this peace in my head that I've never ever had in the fellowship I was going to, honestly. And really looking at how my behaviour in the food had really impacted my kids. And I never ever knew that, and looked at how selfish I really am around food. I would, like an example for me, I would, because I was so obsessed with this particular food that you would have at a birthday party, the big thing that you have at the birthday party, I would tell all the family, leave it to me, I'm going to buy that. I'm going to buy it for you. It's going to be lovely. I'm going to buy it for you. And it weren't for them. It was because I wanted it. And I remember my son got engaged, and I went, "Don't leave it to me, I'll get it. And I ordered this big, massive one. It was lovely. And all through the engagement party, I was like, "Oh, when you're going to start cutting that? But really obsessed. When you're going to start doing that? When can we start having a bit of that?" And what happened with that was we left the party, and the food had to be left at the party with this particular food. And I found out the next day, and I was raging, I was angry, and I wanted this food. So I raced up to the pub to get this particular food, because I didn't want it left there, because I wanted it. And it weren't even mine to want. And I remember bringing it home, chopping it off, eating it, chopping it off, eating it, until there was hardly anything there. And my future daughter-in-law said to me, "Oh, have you got that at your house?" And I went, "Oh, you never guess what? The stuff around it melted, and I had to chuck a load of it away." That deceitful lying. I was such a liar around food. I never seen it. I really never. And all that I had a thank you. 5. Yeah. I never ever seen how deceitful I was. I've got another son, he's 20 now, and I took him as hostage. I would always say, "Come on, shall we go and have something to eat?" And he'd come along with me, and I'd be like, "Oh, shall we have a little bit extra? Shall we have a starter? Shall we have a this? Shall we have that?" And then he ended up being overweight, and I would always take him hostage, and like this is all the stuff I've had to look at. So what happened with me is I ended up getting complacent. I used GreySheeters as a diet and never engaged. I went to an NA convention and I picked the food up. And I thought, it's just the once I can get back on this. And I could, for a year, I was in relapse and it was painful. Well, at the beginning, I thought, oh, it's all right. You know what? It's not quite true what they say. I can have a bit and then put it down, and I'm all right. I'm managing it okay. It didn't end up like that. I ended up in, I wanted to kill myself, to be honest with you. It was a dark, painful place. Oh, it was horrible. I was putting weight on. Um, I wasn't picking the phone up to just anybody. I was hardly seeing my family. I wasn't paying bills. I just was burying my head in the food and the boxes and packets, whatever. And it was horrible. And I always thought about Grey Sheet. I knew I always wanted Grey Sheet, and I would always like listen to shares or go on the phone bridge now and then. I was too shameful to pick the phone up, and then it got that dark for me. I remember picking the phone up to somebody in Grey Sheet and saying, "Do you know what? I need help. I really need help." And she directed me in the right direction to my sponsor that I've got now, and I was given like a relapse prevention thing, and it was something that I needed. It was a structure. It was something that I had to agree that this is I'm going to do this for my recovery, and I have. I make outreach, even though I'm full of fear when I'm doing it. I try my best with that. I never made food for any of the members of the family. I always had the food that I was going to use in the house. I do my meetings. I share I'm quite honest about sharing about where I'm at, and I did everything that I needed to do, even when I didn't want to do it, and yeah, I'm on day 100, and it blows my head away. It's like, oh my God, how have I got here? And I have got a relationship with my higher power, which I choose to call God, and but he guides me. I believe he guides me. He guides me in the right direction. He guides me to the right people. And my sponsor now, I can just be totally honest with her. If I'm having a rubbish day, I'm having a rubbish day. If the kids are doing me head in, if my husband is doing me head in, I can just be totally honest, and that's what I wasn't before. And I've had quite a few, no matter what, within this short space of time. Been diagnosed with an illness that causes me pain, but there's people in Grey Sheet that can identify with me. I'm in debt. There's people who can identify with me. I've got an addict son that is a nightmare, and he's back on a relapse now, and I've had to kick him out. He doesn't live with me, but he turns up. I've had to kick him out of my house, and I haven't wanted to eat through any of this. And that blows my head away. It really, really does. Um, because I didn't need much of an excuse to eat before. If it was too hot, I'd eat. If it was too cold, I would eat. I'd always go to the fridge to look for the answer, like the answer was going to be in the fridge or the cupboard. And it's just such a miracle. It really is that I've been crazy the last few days. I really have. I'm menopausal as well. But that is a miracle. I haven't wanted to pick the food up. I love my food. My food are tens all the time. They are. I love my food. I have abundance of food. It's amazing. It looks lovely. I've got granddaughters that I have, and one of them wanted a bit of my lunch the other day, and like a meanie nanny. It was like, no, you can't have this. This is nanny's. And when I got something else, but I have to do that, and I have to put my abstinence first. I have to put my abstinence before my family, everything I do. And I used to put my kids before my abstinence. Thank you, Antoinette. And that's where I didn't agree with Grey Sheet. I used to think, no, my kids have to come first, but it's not. My abstinence comes first, because if I haven't got that, I haven't got a life and I can't be a mum. So I hope that's okay. It's the first time I've ever shared with Grey Sheet. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you. And thank you for asking.